Part 1. The first rule. I shouldn't have come back. The front gate groaned like a dying animal as I pushed it open, its rusted hinges crying out into the suffocating silence. Weeds clawed up through cracked concrete, and the once proud sign, St. Ethel's Home for Orphan Children, hung crooked, like it too had given up hope. The late afternoon sun was bleeding into dusk, and the last rays of light sliced through the fog that hugged the building like a shroud. The air tasted stale, filled with mildew, dust, and something faintly coppery, like dried blood or rusted dreams. I stepped inside. My boots echoed on the marble floor, sharp and intrusive. Every step stirred the silence like poking at a sleeping beast. The interior was almost perfectly preserved, as if the children had vanished overnight, leaving toys scattered on the floor. The air was thick with memory. They said the place closed after a fire. No official cause, no survivors, just rumors, whispers, and rules. I found the list pinned to the wall in the lobby, yellowed and curled at the edges like burnt parchment. Faded red ink spelled out 5 rules. 5 rules every orphan had to follow. A chill traced my spine as I read the first. Rule number 1. Never speak to the girl in the red dress. There was no explanation, just that single line. The way it was written, scratched deeper into the paper than the others, made my skin crawl. Like whoever wrote it needed to be heard. I took out my camera. This was what I came for. Urban legend footage for my channel. Something real. Something terrifying. Something viral. The hallway stretched before me like a throat, dim and narrow, lit only by the dying daylight streaming through broken windows. Each door I passed was marked with peeling paint and scrawled names. Eleanor, Marcus, Becca, the ghosts of forgotten. Suddenly, a sound, a soft giggle. I froze. The sound came from behind me, light as a feather, unmistakably that of a child. I turned around. Nothing. Just the long, empty corridor behind me. I told myself it was the wind. Old buildings groan, whisper, creak. It's normal, logical. But as I took a step forward, I heard it again. Closer. A girl's laughter, sweet, innocent, wrong. Then, the faint patter of small feet running. I spun, heart hammering. Still nothing. My breath caught in my throat as I slowly turned back around. And that's when I saw her. Down the hallway, partially hidden by shadow, stood a little girl. Maybe 7 years old, pale as porcelain, dressed in a faded, old-fashioned red dress with lace frills. Her hair hung in tangled curls around her face, and her hands were clasped politely in front of her. She smiled. I took a step back. Don't speak to her. My eyes flicked to the wall behind her. Another list of rules, hastily scribbled in charcoal, smeared with handprints. The same first rule stared back at me like a warning from the past. Never speak to the girl in the red dress. She tilted her head slightly, like a doll winding down. I didn't say a word, but she did. Do you want to play with me? Her voice was soft, syrupy sweet, and echoing faintly, like it came from a broken tape recorder. I didn't answer. She stepped forward. "Please," she whispered. "I'm lonely." My fingers tightened around the camera. I turned and ran. My boots pounded against the floor, each step sending a blast of dust into the air. Doorways blurred past me. I didn't dare look back. I just ran. I turned the corner and slammed straight into something solid. I stumbled back, breath ragged. A man stood there, old, wrinkled, dressed in a faded brown caretaker's uniform. His eyes were glassy, but not dead. "Did you speak to her?" he asked, voice like gravel rubbed with rust. I shook my head. "No, I read the rule." "Good," he cut me off. "That's the only reason you're still breathing." He handed me a folded slip of paper. His hand trembled as he pressed it into mine. "This is the rest. You'll need them if you want to get out." He turned without another word and disappeared down the hallway like smoke. I unfolded the paper. The rules of St. Ethel's Orphanage. Rule number 1, never speak to the girl in the red dress. Rule number 2, if you hear scratching inside the walls, don't acknowledge it. Rule number 3, if you see your reflection smile before you do, run. Rule number 4, don't follow the music box. Rule number 5, you must be out before 3:33 a.m. My hand shook as I read the last one. Then the lights flickered. 1, 2, gone. The hallway plunged into darkness, and from behind me came the soft, rhythmic sound of something being dragged across the floor. Part 2. The scratching rule. The darkness swallowed everything. I fumbled for my flashlight, fingers trembling as I yanked it from my backpack. The beam flared to life with a sharp click, cutting through the black like a knife. But the release was short-lived. The beam stuttered, glitched. For a second, I thought I saw her again at the end of the hall, the girl in the red dress. But when I blinked, she was gone. The only thing left was the suffocating silence. No wind, no distant city sounds, just a void. Then, scratch. My head snapped to the left. The sound was faint, but deliberate. A long, drawn-out drag, like claws slowly raking against drywall. Scratch, scratch. It was coming from inside the wall. I stepped back instinctively, my spine pressing against cold tile. Rule number 2. If you hear scratching inside the walls, don't acknowledge it. I held my breath, squeezing the flashlight tighter. The beam trembled along with my hands, casting warped shadows that twitched like they were alive. The scratching grew louder. Not just from one wall now, from all of them. The sound moved, like something crawling, fast and low, just behind the surface of the walls, skittering through the orphanage's skeleton. It passed behind me, then beside me, then above, then whispers. Low, muted, unintelligible, like dozens of small mouths pressed against the walls, whispering through the cracks. I clenched my jaw. I wouldn't acknowledge it. But that's when it changed. The whispers shifted, slowly forming a shape I couldn't ignore. They were saying my name. Liam. I froze. They knew my name. How? Liam, don't pretend you don't hear us. My pulse spiked. Was I just hearing echoes of my own breath, or had something learned how to mimic it? The scratching began again, but now it came in patterns, rhythmic, intentional, like knocking, like code. I stumbled backward down the hallway, flashlight beam flailing against the walls, catching glimpses of peeling wallpaper, decayed paintings, childlike drawings, some innocent, some wrong. That's when I found the nursery. The door was open. Inside, cribs sat in neat rows, each with a name tag. Dust-coated mobiles hung from the ceiling, unmoving. A music box sat on the far table, its lid slightly open. I didn't move. I didn't touch it. But it began to play anyway. The melody was off, warped and too slow, notes out of tune, like the box was melting from the inside. It sounded like a lullaby, pulled from a nightmare. Rule number 4, don't follow the music box. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind me. I lunged for it, pulled, pounded. Nothing. Behind me, the music warped further, then stopped. Click. Silence. Then the scratching started again. From inside the nursery. I backed away slowly, flashlight beams sweeping. Crib. Crib. Empty crib. Then a figure. At the far corner of the room, inside the shadows cast by the beam's trembling light, stood a small shape. Unmoving, barely visible. Not a child. Something else. It didn't move, but I saw it breathing. I tried to keep calm, not acknowledge, not speak. But then it did something calculated. It mimicked my voice. I didn't speak to her, it whispered. My voice, exactly. Same tone, same panic. I didn't speak to her. I shook my head. No, that's not me. You're not. The figure tilted its head. Then it stepped forward. But its movement didn't match the steps. It was too smooth, like sliding across reality, bypassing gravity, a glitch in the world. I pressed myself to the locked door, heartbeat screaming in my ears. Then, without warning, the flashlight died. Complete darkness. My breathing, loud, ragged. Then, from the dark, right next to my ear, "You broke Rule 2." I screamed. The door flung open behind me, and I tumbled out into the hallway, slamming it shut behind me. Breathing hard, sweating, I turned to run and found myself back at the lobby. But the rules on the wall had changed. New ones had been added, and one was now highlighted in fresh red ink, still wet. Rule number 6, if you break a rule, you must make it right before 3:33 a.m. or someone else will pay the price. I blinked, and the girl in the red dress was standing behind the glass of the entrance door. smiling softly. She raised her hand and waved. Part 3. The Echo Room. I didn't remember walking, but suddenly I was there, in a room I swore I'd never seen before, but it felt familiar. Like I'd been there as a child, like I'd left something behind. The walls were lined with broken mirrors, some cracked like spiderwebs, others warped like water frozen mid-motion. Each reflected a different version of the room, subtly wrong, off by inches, by shadows, and in each reflection, I wasn't standing the same way. Some of me had my hands in my pockets. Some of me were crying. One was staring straight at me, smiling with lips too wide. The door slammed shut behind me. I turned. There was no knob, only a single phrase carved into the metal, fresh and deep like fingernails had etched it. You must remember. Suddenly, voices, dozens, hundreds, overlapping, layered, coming from every mirror. They whispered in echoes, some familiar, some alien. Liam, you remember this room, don't you? You left them here. You forgot. Why did you close the door that day? Why did you pretend nothing happened? No, I muttered, shaking my head. I've never been here. This isn't real. But my voice was already bouncing back at me, twisted. This isn't real. I left them. I forgot. Each echo added its own lie. I clutched my ears. The sound wasn't just external. It was inside my skull, like the room had found a way to burrow into my thoughts. Then the light began to flicker. Each flash revealed the mirrors changing. Faster now. Each version of me moving independently, some turning away, others stepping closer to the glass. One banged its fists against the mirror, eyes wide in terror. Another just watched me, calmly. I couldn't move, because one reflection, one dead center, was missing. My flashlight dropped to the floor. I was gone from it. The mirror was still showing the room, but I wasn't in it. Just the flickering light, the walls, the silence, and behind me, footsteps, slow, bare, child-sized. I turned. Nothing. Then the scratching started again. But this time, it wasn't from the walls. It came from inside my head. Scratch. Right behind my eyes. Like something trying to tunnel out. I dropped to my knees, pressing my palms to my temples, whispering to myself, "This isn't real. It's a trick. I didn't break the rules. I didn't. But rule number 2, I'd already broken it. And now it was inside. A mirror shattered behind me. I looked up. The figure from the nursery stood in the shards, watching me. No eyes, no mouth, just a blank, skin-tight face, and dozens of tiny mouths all over its neck and chest, whispering in chorus. You left us. You forgot the door. You promised. I backed away. My breath hitched. Who are you? Its mouth opened where none should be, and in my own voice, it whispered, I'm the version of you that remembered. The walls rippled. Mirrors cracked, one after the other, collapsing inward, forming a spiral of reflections around me, each showing a different moment I didn't recognize, but somehow knew. Me as a child, peeking into a dark basement. Me running from a girl in a red dress. Me closing a door, whispering, "Don't tell." Had I been here before? A memory, no, a dream slipped through. An old woman's voice, "Never speak to the girl. Never open the mirror room. If you do, you must remember the truth." My head spun. I reached out to steady myself and touched the mirror with the missing reflection. It didn't feel like glass. It felt like skin. The surface rippled, and I was pulled through. Part 4. The Mirror Game. The sensation of falling didn't come with speed. It came with weightlessness, like sinking into water that wasn't wet, like memory. When I opened my eyes, I stood in a corridor made entirely of mirrors. Floor, walls, ceiling, all seamless, reflecting infinity in every direction. Except there was no reflection of me. I turned left, then right. I was gone from every surface, but someone else was there. Dozens of me, each frozen mid-step, scattered across the mirrored halls like mannequins in an invisible store. One leaned against the mirrored wall, bleeding from the eyes. Another stood on tiptoes, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. A third was writing on the wall with something red. Over and over, "I chose this. I chose this. I chose this." My footsteps echoed, but not in sync. The sound came before I moved, as if someone already knew where I would go. I whispered, "Where am I?" From all directions, in perfect unison, the others answered, "You're where you always were." A cold hand brushed the back of my neck. I spun. No one, but now every version of me in the mirrors, had turned to face me. Their mouths opened, and I heard laughter. Childlike, mocking. "You thought you broke the rule," one of them said. "But the rule broke you," another added. They all began to chant. "You looked too long. You stayed too late. You thought you were the only one. You're not. You're not. You're not." I clutched my ears. "Stop, I want out." One version of me stepped forward from the mirror, not as a reflection, but as real as I was. He wore my face, my jacket, but his eyes were hollow, not metaphorically, literally, empty sockets. He smiled and spoke with my voice, but quieter, sharper. "You can't leave. That's not how the game works." "What game?" He tilted his head. "The mirror game." The hallway twisted behind him, literally. The walls curled like paper burning in reverse, and suddenly we were in a vast white space, empty except for mirrors. Hundreds, all floating midair in a spiral around us. In each, a different version of me. Some terrified, some laughing maniacally, one lying still, eyes closed, lips whispering something I couldn't hear. "Which one are you?" my reflection asked. I shook my head. "I'm me, the original." His grin widened. "There is no original, just whoever wins." I backed away. "This is a trick." From behind, a voice whispered into my ear. Not his voice, but hers. "Liam, why didn't you let me out?" I froze. Turning slowly, I saw her in one of the mirrors, the little girl in the white dress, but older now. Her face hollow, decayed. "You left me," she whispered. "You closed the mirror." Images flashed through my mind, memories I didn't remember. A door, a girl crying, me turning the lock. Had I done that? "No," I whispered. "That wasn't me. I was a kid. I didn't understand." "But you did." Another version of me stepped out of a nearby mirror. This one was sobbing, eyes red. "I tried to stop you," he muttered. "You kept walking." A third followed, his mouth sewn shut, pointing a trembling hand at me. "You chose," echoed around the space. The mirrors began to shatter, one by one. Each breaking released a gust of air and a scream. The spiral closed in. I dropped to my knees. In front of me, the mirror with no reflection began to glow. The empty version of me, socket eyes, too wide grin, stepped closer. "This is your last turn," he said. "Pick one." The mirrors around me pulsed, flickering between moments I didn't remember living, but felt like I should. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The girl's voice came back, softer this time. "If you want to leave, Liam, remember the door." I looked up. Only one mirror remained whole. It showed a wooden door, slightly open, warm light behind it, and a child's hand reaching through. Part 5. The door that wasn't there. The last mirror didn't shatter. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The warmth behind the door in its reflection glowed gold, spilling soft light across the white void. The child's hand reached through the opening, small, fragile, waiting. I took a step forward. Behind me, the doppelganger hissed, "Don't." "I remember now," I said, voice trembling. "I left her." "You locked the door," he whispered. "You turned the key." I didn't know what it meant. He moved closer, breath icy against my neck. "You never had a choice." I reached for the mirror. He lunged, but the girl's hand grabbed mine first and pulled me through. I awoke on the cold wooden floor of room 3B in the orphanage, gasping, alone. The mirror was whole. No cracks, no darkness, just me. But not quite. My reflection blinked a moment too late, tilted its head a little too slowly, smiled before I did. I stumbled back, my legs weak. The room around me was lit by the faintest morning sun seeping through broken blinds. Dust floated in golden streams of light. The air was cold, real, solid. I made it out. I ran, down the hallway, past the rusted beds, the peeling walls, out into the overgrown courtyard where ivy strangled the stone statues. I didn't look back, not until I reached the gate and saw the sign. St. Mariah's Home for Lost Children, condemned, do not enter. Est 1892, burned down 1971. My breath caught. Burned down? But I was just inside. I turned slowly. The building stood before me, whole and untouched. Yet as I blinked, the facade flickered like an old film reel caught between frames. For a second, the building was ash and ruin. Then, intact again. Behind one of the upper windows, I saw the girl, staring, still in her white dress. But now she was smiling, not at me, at something behind me. I turned. There was no one there, but the reflection in the window didn't match my movements. It stepped forward, raised a hand I hadn't moved, and waved. I made it home. At least, I think I did. Everything looked the same. My apartment, my coffee mug, my bed. But something felt off. Every mirror in my place now had a slight lag. Less than a second. Barely noticeable, except to me. Sometimes they didn't lag. They moved before I did. One night, I covered them all. Duct tape, sheets, towels. But I could still hear the whispers. Fate. Coming from behind the glass. You chose the door. But the game never ends. We just let you win this time. Now I sleep with the lights on. Never after midnight. Never near a mirror. Because I know something I didn't before. I wasn't the first to play this game. And I won't be the last. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more terrifying tales, and leave a comment if you dare. We're watching. Always watching.